I've been teaching in this way that I have taught you 8 lectures, then finished, then teaching new subject like that. So each 8 lectures. Now, previously, we studied the Evangelism 1 with 8 lectures. Okay. In these 8 lectures, I have dealt with original sin, 2 kinds of human, who are Christians, and who are Satan's children, all these things. Okay? Because evangelism means how to share the gospel. That's the evangelism. How to present the gospel of Jesus to non-Christians. That's the called evangelism. We are evangelizing a person, means we are teaching and presenting the gospel of Jesus, hoping the person will come to the Lord, being a Christian. Okay? Now, in my evangelism series, I do not teach you how to present the gospel. Instead of that technique, I try to teach you what issues lies behind that evangelism, which many non-Christians will ask you some possible questions on Christianity. To answer those questions, I've been dealing with that, such as here in the Evangelism 1, what is the original sin, what kind of peoples, who are Christians, who are non-Christians, and so on. And the human part, body and soul and spirit part, we've been dealing with those issues. Now, starting here, Evangelism 2, we will study further theories on that issues. Okay? Now, to learn those theories, okay, there are 2 kinds of theories within the Christian community. Okay? Now, these 2 kinds of theories always have been existed, even today. Those 2 different theories often confusing many people. Now, so we have to deal with those 2 different theories in a very brief and simple way. Okay? Now, behind those theories, 2 prominent, well-known persons behind the theories who created those theories. Okay? Now, those 2 theories, what we call, one is a Calvinism, and the other one is Arminianism, which you will be aware of that. Okay? But for your teaching purposes, we have to teach people what is a Calvinism, what is a Arminianism, because some people believe this, that under the Calvinism, they said that God's people are very small in terms of numbers. They are minority. So out of entire human being, only a very selective few people are God's people. That teaching was developed by Calvin, John Calvin. Okay? Now, later, after the John Calvin's teaching, some Christians raised the question on Calvin's teachings that we don't agree with Calvin, okay? And they said, God, who is love, a loving God, we believe all humans are subject to be qualified as God's children. Entire human. Okay? However, whoever responds to the gospel will be children of God. That teaching is Arminianism. Okay? Can you see the differences right here? Okay? Calvinism means what? Only selected, chosen people. Now, and Arminianism is that God has given chance, opportunity to entire human. Okay? But conditional upon you respond positively to the calling of God. Then you will be a child of God. That's Arminianism. The two isms have been confronting each other up until now. So when we share the gospel, some people will ask you, asking like this, my friend told me that only a few are chosen. Some of them said, no, everybody are God's children, and so on. So you as a gospel presenter, you should be well aware of all these two different opposing doctrines. Very briefly, today we will spend time together in teaching these two theories in a very brief way, not a thorough, profoundly and deep level. Are you ready for that? So now, in lecture 1, we will see who is John Calvin. We have to know that. He's a very famous man. Okay? Now, John Calvin, okay, he lived 59 years. He died at 59. Okay? At that time was it's not bad at all. He was born in 1505 and died in 1564. You should remember, this is 1505. Remember, Reformation was what? Reformation was 1517. So, how old was he? He was 12 years old when Luther, he was a 12 years old young boy when Luther, okay, took that Reformation. So he is younger than Luther. Luther is from Germany, but this man, Calvin, is a French. He's a Frenchman. He was born in France, a Frenchman. Okay? So in English we call Calvin, but actually in French language, Calvin. In French, it's a Calvin. Now, he was born in Roman Catholic family, and he was a lawyer. He went to law school. He was a human rights lawyer, very bright young man. But at the age of 24, he rejected Roman Catholic theology. Okay? Now, because of that, he had received persecution from Roman Catholic, because France is dominantly Roman Catholic country even today. France. Okay? Now, because of the persecution, he moved to Switzerland. That's a very famous city, Basel, Switzerland. What's the next country? He moved as a kind of a refugee. Okay, moved to Basel, Switzerland, when he was 26 years old, as a young man. Now, in Basel is a very famous city in Switzerland, even today. Okay, especially you Christians, you have to be familiar with that city, Basel. Okay, Basel. And when he was 30 years old in Basel, he wrote very famous book. This is a very famous book. This is a typical, because he wrote about Christianity. That famous book is called The Institute of the Christian Religion. Okay? This is a very famous book, and even many theologians even still enjoying reading that book in order to understand Calvin theology. We call the Calvin theology Calvinism, which you write down, and also Reformed theology. Reformed theology. And also, we call it covenant theology. Covenant theology. Covenant theology. All this relates to Calvinism. Reformed theology and covenant theology and Calvinism all relate each other. Okay, now that theology, his theology, was deeply explained here in this book. Okay, the Institute of the Christian Religion. I believe that book translated in your language. I'm not sure, but he wrote this book here at the age of 30. Later, he revised it in 3 years after, and then later, before he died, he revised it again. So that book was revised 3 times, just for your reference. Okay? Now, from this Basel, because of persecutions, he had to move to another city. That city is called Geneva. This is a very famous city, even today. Geneva, Switzerland. Because Switzerland, even today, major historical event taking place, even today, in the city Geneva. Have you heard the name Geneva? Okay, yeah, Geneva. So this is Geneva is a hometown, home place of covenant theology. Also, home place of Reformed theology. And then home place of Calvinism. That much is a very famous city. Okay? He arrived in Geneva and opened up a church, pastoring as a pastor. Okay? That church is called Reformed Church. Reformed Church. So that is, when you say Reformed Church, it means Reformed Church and denomination. Okay? So today, you've got many Reformed Presbyterian churches, Reformed Dutch Reformed Church, all these Hungarian Reformed Church, even French Reformed Church. There are many Reformed name attached. That's all Calvin-related doctrine churches. Reformed. Are you with me? Okay. Now, so Reformed denomination and the church established in Geneva here in 1541, when he was 36 years old. So, in our Christian history, the Reformed Church was established 1541. How many years after Reformation? You see, 41 minus 17. 24 years after Reformation by Luther. Okay? Now, you see, in this church, Calvin was so courageous. He was very courageous and a bold man, entering Roman Catholic churches in that city and have destroyed all the Roman Catholic icons, statues, and all kinds of pictures and icons he destroyed because of that fightings, argument. That much he was so brave man. Now, in the midst of that, he married a widow, and lady conceived one baby boy, and she died along with the baby when delivered the baby. Okay, she died later. So she died, and after that, he remained single throughout his life. About 9 years marriage life together in Geneva. In Geneva city, formerly was a Roman Catholic city because of a Calvin influence. And the city became a prominent Protestant city. So majority people in the city were Protestant, Calvinism-oriented people. So those only Calvinism-favored people became a city council member. Okay, so the Council of City of Geneva was very well-known, famous in the Christian history. Okay, that Council of Geneva Council, we call it. Okay, later Calvin was started with a member of the council, but later he became a top leader in the council. The council was very strongly against Roman Catholics. Even according to the history, the council made a resolution to kill those opponents against the Calvinism. Some said about 38 people were killed. Some say around 57 people killed. In other words, those Calvinistic people were so strong, okay, in their theology, even got say by they have a right to kill those who are against them. Because of this, even today, anti-Calvinistic Christians blaming Calvin is a killer, Christian killer. So some people arguing that God put him in hell instead of paradise. So Calvin is in the hell. Some arguing that because he was a killer. Still, it's remaining that issue. See? So when you sharing the gospel with the people, some people will ask you, okay, Calvin, I don't like Calvin because he killed many people. Then you will ask me, how about you, Dr. Wang? Do you believe that? I think it's not a Calvin alone. It was a group discussions, group decisions, committee decisions. Calvin could not oppose to that. So I hoped God forgave Calvin and those members. I don't know about that. Okay, still it's up in air. Now, during the time he was there, and Calvin discipled many disciples, at least about 100 disciples. And these people sent out those 100 people as missionaries to Europe, in order to teach them Calvinism, Reformed theology. Okay? So one of his disciples, his name is very well known. His name is John Knox. He is a Scottish man. He was one of the disciples, John Knox, from Scotland. Are you with me? Okay. John Knox went back to his hometown, Scotland. He established Presbyterian Church. You see, Scottish Presbyterian Church, who became the founder of the Presbyterian Church. The Presbyterian means their theology was a Reformed theology. Okay? But Presbyterian means elders. Presbytery means elders. Elders are the governing people in a church. Instead of a bishop, instead of archbishop, the leadership held by elders, like a member of parliament in a church. The elders were chosen by congregations, okay, and congregations gave elders to make any decisions. Just like a board members. That's the church structure system. So that kind of system called Presbyterian system. Are you with me? That's why they call it Presbyterian Church. The elder-oriented, elder-controlling system of structure of church. So pastor is also a member of elders in a Presbyterian system. Now here, so John Knox established Presbyterian denomination here in 1560. Okay, and what their theology would be? Calvinism. Okay, and also Reformed theology. Also covenant theology. That's all similar. That's why here in Korea, Presbyterian churches, they call themselves, we are believing in Reformed theology. Okay? Now, here, this Calvin has a very, very important achievement in the Christian church histories. Okay? For that reason, we still honor him as a well-known, respected theologian. Now here, he wrote commentaries, including all Old Testament, all New Testament, with an exception of Revelation. See? With an exception of Revelation, he is the one who wrote entire Bible commentary. What a man. In the midst of that busy ministerial, schedules, he was a very brilliant and spirit-filled man. Still, many scholars today are quoting his commentaries. Also, he established school. Started with the Bible school. Now, later, it became the University of Geneva, even today. So, he established the school, a teaching. So, this man is a writer, also he's a teacher, education-oriented man. Okay, in order to produce many followers and students, we need a teaching institute here. And also, he wrote the Heidelberg Catechism. That catechism means, catechism means you just kind of a teaching textbook. You ask a question and you answer to the questions. And you ask a question, what is Christianity? And he answered it. Okay. What is Satan's children? He answered it. What is a church? He answered it. That kind of a textbook called catechism, the teaching textbook. Okay, they call it Heidelberg. Heidelberg is a city of German. Heidelberg Catechism. It's teaching Christianity and Christian doctrines textbook. Heidelberg Catechism. That's a very famous, textbook. And he also, as I say, he established the Reformed Church and also Reformed theology. That's all his achievement. Okay, let me repeat again. Commentaries, University of Geneva, and Heidelberg Catechism, Reformed Church, and Reformed theology. When his times come, he died at the age of 59. One of the very interesting remarks that he made before his death, he said that in order to soli Deo Gloria, only for the glory of God, I do not want to receive glory. Therefore, do not make any tombstone and any monumental stones whatsoever in my tomb site. So the people will not know my tomb site. What a man. Okay, so he was a very humble in this respect. Nothing but seeking for the glory of God instead of he wanted to receive glory. No such a glorious funeral service, no such a citywide funeral service, no tomb site available to the public people. He was a very humble man for the purpose of the glory of God. This is the story of John Calvin. Okay, I just telling you very briefly who is John Calvin for your benefit, also for your sharing the gospel. So in the next lecture, in lecture 2, then I will teach you what is the Calvinism in a very short way. Let's take a break. May God bless you. Amen.